as well. A huge discrimination.
Against other gay or lesbian?
Big time.
Why?
Big time. Should I open up my mouth?
Why?
Because
Okay, so now say who you are.
my name is Armando.
And are you...
I'm one of the nurses at Dr. Dardashji's office.
Okay.
In the gay community, yes, there is a big discrimination issue, and we're talking about transgender.
Yeah.
Within the transgender community and the gay, what they call gay boys, especially in the Latino community, we like to throw that word out.
Are you gay?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is an issue. Sometimes I see how those two communities kind of clash within each other because they tend to not accept each other. And so I see, and it hurts me to see the transgender community being pushed so much to the side. And, going back to, we are big advocates for the transgender community. That's why Dr. Dardashji has, developed this whole surgery for transgender community. So, yes, there is a huge... What would you say?
The transgender community feels like they've been left behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even by the gay community. Yeah, they call it the LGBTQ.
Yeah.
I don't know what Q even stands for, by the way. But couldn't they just come up with, you know what I mean? Like, what does Q even stand for? Does anyone know?
And what does LGB stand for?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender.
Okay.
I don't get the Q thing. What is the Q thing? Gender reassignment. I have no idea, to be honest to you. But just I don't know. Some of the Q was added.
Yeah.
But when you go to, for example, if you go to gay clubs, the transgenders are looked upon differently.
Really?
It's really sad.
Gay men versus lesbians. That's a big thing. Like, you don't see too many gay men being friends with lesbians.
Really?
Yeah. You don't see like there is the femme lesbians and the dyke lesbians, and there's a big thing with that, and
why is
or
it
the
that they're
femme,
not friends?
or the femme gay men and the
masculine.
masculine
Like you were
gay
talking
men.
about masculine, like I think it's the same kind of thing. It's like
you can have like 10 shows about that one, but I'm just it's very different. Like you can have one queen in a group only. You can not have more than one queen in a group.
Yeah.
And I've literally been at bars where I'm sitting at a table and I see a literally fight break out between two of the quote unquote queen men because there was too much drama on the table.
Yeah.
And
I could see that happening.
yeah. So, but going back to the transgender community, they literally have been left behind.
Yeah.
And they don't know. And I'll tell you a personal story. I had a patient of mine who was transgender, and he was transitioning into becoming a woman. 19 years old only.
Wow.
Worked for MAC Makeup.
Yeah.
And was one of the most beautiful people you've ever met inside and out. Drop dead gorgeous. I did a breast augmentation on him. That was one of his first surgeries.
Yeah.
And that's one of the surgeries where I learned you really have to go bigger with the implants because his muscles were really thick. It was 5'11", drop dead gorgeous. But he was the softest man alive. You don't understand. What a nice person. And 2 years later, he committed suicide over a relationship. His grandmother, who was the love of his life, who was the only person that was his best friend and was accepting of him. He was also Latino. And she passed away, and 6 days later, he committed suicide.
Wow. It's so sad to me when you hear stuff like that happens because, it's like, I had mentioned to a few of my listeners that I wanted to do a show of the pressure that, society, or kids have these days, which is really sad to me. Like I think it was like my son's school, high school, one of the kids, like he was a ninth grader, committed suicide because, he's gay. And to me, that's just like the saddest thing ever. It's like, he's just a ninth grader, and after that happened, that incident, I think it might have been not maybe a month later, maybe 3 weeks later, at my daughter's school. She's in middle school.
Yes.
An eighth grader, I don't know what the story is, but a lot of the story is that, he overdosed on drugs, and I'm just like, that's just so sad to me that nowadays there's so much pressure out there for the kids, with like your identity, whether you're cool, you're not cool, or even with like drugs, you know what I mean? And like, to me, it's just like, it's so sad because, when we were growing up, you didn't really hear about that kind of stuff. Like, you knew that there was discrimination, but it was not to the point of where it pushes somebody to not want to be around because it's so much pressure or you're not accepted. And I was telling my daughter, I told my daughter, I go, it's like, I'm not advocating drugs. Like, I'm not for drugs at all, but I feel that psychologists and school districts, as a responsibility, it's like, I know they have the talk of, not like say no to drugs, but we all know just like the society that we live in, there's more kids doing drugs, than not doing drugs. So for me, I would like to see, like therapists and like even police officers, I would like them to come together and teach the kids, the importance of knowing what you're taking. Do you know what I mean? Like, not saying, okay, we're not advocating drugs, but, you guys don't understand. Like, there's so much crap that is being put on drugs, and that's what's killing them. That's what's killing them. That's what's driving them to, like, do things that they don't want to do because, the drugs are being like, it's like they're being made with like a bunch of crap and things that we don't even know.
Now you're going into another segment that I could spend another 5 times talking about.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel that they should speak about the importance of knowing what it is that you're putting in your mouth and where it comes from, because otherwise that's when you have dangers.
It's called parenting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have good parenting.
Yeah.
There is one of the things I've started doing in my practice, because I just built a brand new surgery center, so I've ventured out to other things as well as the cosmetic surgery. One of the big things right now is these pellets that you can implant into a patient's abdomen or under the skin, basically these tiny little pellets that basically they counteract the effects of opiates and alcohol.
Wow.
So drug addicts, opiate addicts, alcohol addicts that have basically gone through rehab and they're clean for a certain amount of time, we can implant this in them, and it's good for a good 6 months, and it keeps them clean. Today was the first time that I started doing them, and basically I have a psychiatrist on board in my surgery center now in my practice, and those are his patients. And the girl, she was 19 years old, and the boy was 26. Both come from very well-to-do families, very well-to-do. One is Latina American. The other one is full-blown American from Massachusetts, moved here. Very well-to-do families. Where has the parenting been?
Yeah.
The girl started doing marijuana when she was 13. She was already doing heroin when she was 15. She tried to commit suicide last year.
Yeah.
Before we put her to sleep, we gave them some sedation. I asked her about the scar she had on her arm because I hadn't seen it yet, and she goes, "I tried to commit suicide last year."
Yeah.
I tapped her lightly on the forehead, and I said, "Don't you love yourself?" And she goes, "Well, I figured it's not my time to die." And she fell asleep. I did the procedure. When she came to, after she had her sandwich, all that stuff, she looked at me. She goes, "Ha ha ha! The surgeon, she actually hit me." She tapped me on my forehead. I said, "You do understand there are people in this world that love you. So don't forget there are people in this world that love you. Even I love you." And she started smiling. And she goes, "Yes, I know. Thank you." The parenting has not been there for her.
Yeah.
somebody should have, in the last 8 years, should have tapped her harder on that forehead
and said something.
I don't have any children. I have 8 nephews and nieces that I have helped raise. And I told somebody today, I said, my nephews, when they were 7 years old, they knew not that they kept calling all these fast food restaurants cancer centers. Somebody put them in their brain that fast food isn't good for them. And somebody should have said something to them that maybe smoking cigarettes may not be that great. Somebody should have said that marijuana is a gateway drug, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The marijuana of today is not the marijuana of 30 years ago. The marijuana of today is 30 times more potent than the marijuana of 30 years ago. And so I'm not for, I mean, I know this is a, free country. You can, people have voted. But I don't agree that marijuana is just as bad as cigarettes or not. I haven't seen the studies for that. Cigarettes kill a lot more, but I think marijuana kills a lot more people as well. And we will see that as we progress. But that's even with alcohol or...
Yeah, it's like moderation.
And kids today can get drugs for free.
I know, it's just so sad.
Everything for free, even meth, crystal meth. You can get that for free as long as you're a part of the crowd.
Yeah.
You can get it for free.
See, that's why for me, that's why I was saying, I'm a single mom.
Yes.
And a lot of, my listeners, I have said to me, they're always asking me, why aren't you dating? Why aren't you seeing somebody? You're beautiful. You seem like a nice person, from what we interact with you on Facebook and Twitter.
You're looking out for your child.
And a lot of them say to me, is there something wrong with you? Because, you've been single for a lot of years. And my thing is no, it's not my time to date yet. I'm not desperate to be in a relationship.
Sure.
But for me, it's my priority are my kids. I want to make sure that I raise my kids and I get them through high school, graduated, especially with all this pressure, with peer pressure, everything, all these drugs that are out. So my responsibility is, I feel that if I embrace a relationship, I feel that even though, I'm going to pay attention to my kids, I feel like, being in a relationship would take some distraction away, because maybe if I was 100% in tune with everything they were doing, I would what if I'm only 99%? And what if that 1%, that I wasn't in tune because, that 1% was, because I'm in love, you know what I mean? So that's my fear. For me, it's not even a fear. It's for me, it's more I want to make sure that, I raise my kids and, I pay attention, to where they're going, who they're going with. And, my son's 16 and, he goes to parties.
Sure.
So of course I drop him off. Of course I pick him up, because my thing is no. I want to make sure, when I drop you off and when I pick you up, I want to make sure that I look at you to make sure that you are not taking anything. You're not being, you know what I'm saying? I want to be there and notice. I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'll drop you off. Your friend's mom can drop you back home later. I'll be sleeping. It's okay. No, it's not okay. I need to be there and I need to do both.
I told the psychiatrist today after I did those 2 cases, some parents have children just because they think they wanted to buy a baby doll.
Yeah.
These are not dolls. You cannot return them to sender. Nothing. Yeah. There's no refunds. You have them. You're responsible for them till the day they die. Not even till they're 18 years old. My mother was a single parent at the age of, when I was 50, my dad passed away. We moved here when I was 9 years old. My dad was hardly ever there. We went from riches to poor, and everything was that we have is because of my mom. She told me one thing once, because we're very close. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
And one day I said something, I snapped back at her. And she said to me, it's my mistake that I made you feel like I'm your friend first, then I'm your parent. Yeah. And she said, don't you ever forget, I'm your parent first. And that always stayed with me. Do you know how old I was?
How old were you?
I was 36 years old and a full-blown cosmetic surgeon. And my mother put me in my place.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that as a parent, sure, if you want to be your child's friend, be a friend, but make sure they remember you're the parent.
Yes.
And that's what we have forgotten in today's day and age. We want to be so cool